Hey guys, welcome back to Record-ology. So, if you saw my little video blurb from yesterday, you know that I recently stumbled into a Five Below. I had seen them like once before. It's sort of like a dollar store, but a little bit higher end, and they've got like this sort of trendy design inside. It's like somebody was tasked with, take a dollar store and make it cool. And this is what they came up with. It's actually kind of fun. They got some unique stuff, a lot of electronics like headphones and stuff. So I thought it'd be a cool idea at some point to do a show reviewing just their headphones. But unexpectedly, I come around the corner and they have a record player. It's not quite a store brand, but it is one that I've never seen anywhere else. So for all intents and purposes, we're calling this the Five Below record player. We're going to review it. We're obviously going to unbox it, test it out, and we're going to tear it apart, see what's inside. You're not going to want to miss this.
Welcome to Record-ology.
I was totally not expecting to find this thing. I didn't know it existed, but I love reviewing store brands and, record players that obviously I've never seen before. And I came across this, and I wouldn't quite call it a store brand because it's not branded as Five Below, but I've never seen it anywhere else, and I would hazard a guess that it's not available anywhere else either. Okay, so we got record player, turntable for vinyl record not included, which is good because I'm pretty sure that's not a real record. It doesn't look right, and I've seen a lot of these. I have seen a lot of these where it's like a CG image of some sort. It's just really bizarre. Also, I'm not 100% sure how this is reflecting the way it is. It's interesting imagery. This is the analog series. I really feel that there's nothing else in the analog series and probably no digital series. It is branded bass jacks. Okay. Compatible with 33, 45, 78 RPM records. Compatible with 7, 10, and 12-inch records. It doesn't say stereo. It says built-in dual drivers speakers. Turning it around back here. We've got all of the components shown and labeled. I feel by looking at this that this record player was made by somebody who read about a record player but never quite saw one, or perhaps was having a fever dream about a record player, and this is kind of what it looked like in the fever dream. Stuff is just slightly off. Obviously, we have our common BSR type of mechanism here. You see in a lot of turntables. I'm not going to hate on that. And there are differences. They're not all the same. So we are going to test it out, make sure it tracks okay. Some of the terminology down here is interesting. Again, vinyl record not included. I love this. Enjoy listening to all of your favorite vinyl records on this classic 3-speed turntable. With a sleek look and simple controls, the high-quality sound design will be the centerpiece of your listening space. So what I'm hoping to get out of something like this is a good entry-level turntable for somebody on little to no budget. Previous to this, the cheapest record player we have reviewed was the Vibe turntable. It was a USB turntable. And by the way, that does look like a USB jack up there. And it was $35 new. This, $25 new, you guys. $25, which is a low price, but can it live up to, and I'm not expecting it, to be the highest end turntable, but can it live up to what it should be doing? And we can know by our experiences that a turntable of this caliber is going to, potentially live up to a certain level, and we want that to occur, okay? We're not expecting it to be something it's not, but does it do what it should do? Can we get $25 out of this? Can we recommend it to newcomers? I've never seen a record player ship with these types of packaging on the side. That is weird. That is very strange. Let me make sure I got everything out of the box. Yep. Yeah. Isn't that weird packaging for a record player? Why not? I guess if it, part of the important thing about packaging is to keep the product away from the edges. So when it gets gashed or, dropped, hopefully not, but if it gets dropped, there's some buffer there. We've got tissue paper on the sides. Okay. It just has made me smile since I saw it. I just started chuckling. And I'm not being snobby about it. If anybody's not going to be snobby about an entry-level turntable, it's me. You guys know me. If you don't know me, we are very friendly to entry-level equipment. We are the friendliest YouTube channel to beginner equipment out there. Bar none, nobody else. I don't want to say forgiving, but we represent things honestly. We're not expecting it to be the highest end product at $25 or even $100 if you're looking at some other entry-level products. We just want it to function. If it doesn't function, if it's got a problem, if it's going to cause damage, we'll call it out. We do have a USB cable. This is a USB-C. No, that's a micro USB. Micro USB. The instruction manual. It's a little. And you know what? Let's open this up. Let's figure out how to set up our turntable. I want to know. So we've got our instructions in here. Single-sided. So yeah, interesting stuff. All right, let me kind of get the camera reset and we'll take a look at the product itself. First thing I'm noticing, there's no power transformer that I can tell. So I guess we have to find a brick to power this thing off of. It'll probably honestly power right off of your computer's USB port. It doesn't advertise this as a USB record player, which is kind of interesting. I'm surprised it doesn't do that. This is bizarre. Okay, let's look at it. So the dust cover is like a foggy blue color, which is kind of cool. I've never seen anything even remotely like this. And it doesn't cover the whole front or the sides or the back. There's a gap all the way around. So we'll have to see if you can close the lid. Some people like that. I've never quite got that, but I'm not usually a lid down kind of record enthusiast. But let's go ahead here and test this out. Okay, so it hinges back. There's no like detent position in the hinge. It's literally just like it gets a little tighter in the back, but that's about it. Yeah, let's before we do that, before we look under the hood, let's look around. Let's do a tour of the unit itself. So the cabinet / plinth is going to be just a plastic. It feels like a pretty lightweight, cheap plastic. Same thing on the sides here. You can see these lines on the side here. I think that represents some corrugated design to the interior structure of the plastic. Time will tell. On the back, there's absolutely no connections except for the 5-volt power connection. There's no aux outputs, no headphone jack, nothing. So if you want to listen to this thing, you're going to be using the built-in dual driver speakers. And on the bottom, there it is. Those are the speakers. So bizarre, this thing. I've never seen anything like this. Let's see if it says who makes it. Distributed by 1616 Holdings Incorporated. If you look them up, you will find out that they have 2 employees and generate a good amount of revenue. Some screw holes right there. I can't get over the fact that there's no jacks on the back or a real power supply of any sort. So let me go ahead and get this powered up and we'll take a closer look. Okay, so here is our 45 adapter. Man, that thing is in there tight. It is the cheapest of the cheap type. I'm not even going to go into it on this video. I don't expect a higher end one at this point on this level of equipment. Let's look at this mechanism right here. Again, this is similar to stuff we've seen on other things. Actually, not a lot of play. Pleasantly surprised there. There's not a lot. A lot of these are just so loose and janky. This one is not so loose. And the lift shelf is plastic, but at least it has one. My first turntable, the Vibe. The Vibe doesn't even have the tone arm lift. It literally cannot be, it doesn't even have that. So 3-speed turntable, this is all common stuff, auto stop on and off. This is the power / volume knob. Yeah, and the cartridge. So let's go ahead and look closer at the cartridge. Okay, so we've got a little clip here. This is an actual metal tone arm, which is good. You may be raising an eyebrow at that, but there are some that actually don't have that. We're going to take off the stylus guard. This is a Chuo-Denshi clone type ceramic cartridge. For people that are new, ceramic refers to the cartridge technology. It bends a ceramic rod similar to a quartz watch. When you apply pressure to a certain type of material, it can actually generate an electrical signal. If you're new here, ceramic refers to the technology in the cartridge. Let's go ahead and remove the needle and see exactly what we're dealing with. Okay, this is the absolute bottom of the barrel stylus. You'll notice that this part in the middle here is plastic. That's called a cantilever. And the higher end ones, the decent ones, are metal. And then where this plastic, it's thin right here, that's usually a little rubber piece to allow it to pivot in order to save money. This is designed with a thinner piece of plastic that can flex. Basically, the needle is this little tiny piece on here, and it's even tinier than it looks because there's probably a steel shank, meaning imagine like a little pyramid of metal. The bulk of that is a cheap metal like steel, and then the very tip of it, a tiny chip of ruby or sapphire. This probably won't be a diamond one. Sometimes you can tell the color. With all the red plastic, it's hard to tell. So yeah, it'll function. It's not going to destroy anything by its nature, by this type of design. The fact that it's cheap doesn't mean it's going to ruin anything. It just means that it's going to probably wear out after 50 to 100 plays. Although I think you could probably stretch it longer than that. But you can upgrade these. You can buy 3 packs for $5, so it's really no big deal. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put this thing on, and we're going to listen to it. I can't do a direct feed sound test because there's no output. All right, let's start by running a couple of tests. So I'm going to start with my trusty Hudson Hi-Fi strobe disc. This will help us determine if the speed settings are accurate. We're going to be looking at these inner 3 rings right here because we are on 60 hertz power. If you were in the UK or someplace with 50 hertz power, you'd be looking at these 3 rings. Now, among those 3 rings, we're going to be taking a look first at this ring right here, which is 33. This middle one is 45, and that's going to be 78. And what we're looking for is when the record is spinning or when the platter is spinning, that they appear to be the same stationary position. Okay, so we're going to start by looking right here at this ring. As I rotate the tone arm over, it should start spinning as soon as I turn it on. I hope start spinning sometime soon. It's kind of wiggling like it wants to start, but it's not actually starting. Yeah, no movement so far. Okay, second time's a charm because I noticed this light wasn't on, so I just turned it on again. And let's try. It's awful rattly. It's awful rattly. Okay, there we go. All right, we are spinning. And this light source is actually this is the clearest I've ever had one of these look on camera. This is amazing. Okay, so looking again, that's pretty dang accurate, actually. What a surprise. It's marching a tiny bit to the left, which means it's a tad bit fast, but that is very reasonable. All right, I am going to flip it to 45. I'm going to keep an eye on this next ring right here. Okay, there's 45. It's fast as well, maybe a tad bit more than 33. And then lastly, we're going to go to this. So far, pleasantly surprised. Wow, that's reasonable. That's doable. A little bit of motor noise. Not surprising. This is probably a JYK motor or something similar, and it's pretty typical once you get up to 78 RPM to hear a little motor noise. However, it's surprising performance so far. Let's check out the tracking force. That'll be the biggest concern probably in terms of record safety. Before we check the tracking force, I do want to mention how cheap this feels. I mean, I've never had one this like rattly. Usually there's a little bit better dampening here. This is designed to isolate vibrations, but it is harsh and it's brutal. It's a brutally harsh thing. But so far there's no red flag other than it looks like it was, the winner of the cheap engineering 101 project. Rubber nubs, just want to check those weren't like fake plastic nubs. We're going to take this apart and look inside in a minute. But let's see how heavy this cartridge tracks. Everybody always asks, no matter how many times I say it, will this damage my records? And there's 2 things that come into play. One, how the jewel, diamond or probably sapphire ruby, is cut. If it's cut correctly If it's placed correctly, it's not going to cause any damage. But if it's off, and it's happened before, it can, wear your records out super fast because it's not in there right. Even though it's a conical, rounded tip, there is a potential for it not being positioned correctly. All right, so I'm going to zero out my scale. The second thing is downforce on the needle. So how much force it's pushing down on the record. Records were designed to take up to 9 grams of downforce. Some people just spit their coffee out or whatever else they're drinking because they think that's ridiculous. It's a point of contention. So much of vinyl records is subjective and everybody's got their own opinion. This cartridge, these ceramic cartridges, are not designed to track any lower than 5 grams. Conversely, they're also not designed to track any more than about 6 grams. So kind of 5 to 6 grams is the sweet spot. And that's okay. It tracks heavier than a higher end cartridge, but it's designed to. It needs to have more force on it in order to, properly play a record than a higher end cartridge. It's just the way, oops. I always do that. And actually, tracking too light is something people never talk about, is actually just as bad as tracking too heavy. All right, let's go ahead and zero out on my digital scale here, and we are going to lower away. Wow, that descends super fast. Okay. And I'm going to put it over here, try to get it on the right spot. So it's full, so we know that it's over 5 grams. No big surprise there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our 5 gram weight and put her on the scale. Then we're going to zero this out again. And that'll zero us out. Oops. Plus or minus. Okay, it's close enough. We'll zero it out one more time. Okay, so we're at negative 5 grams. If I take that weight off now, you'll see negative 5 grams. And I'm going to lower this thing on here. And we're going to add 5 to whatever this says. So 5, almost 6 grams. That's perfect. That's actually the perfect tracking force for this cartridge. It's like 5.8 grams. So it passes 2 tests in a row, you guys. I mean, what am I going to say? Watch how fast this thing descends, though. That is brutal. That is brutal. Now, because it has a lever, you can manually make it go slower, but there should be a little more damping fluid in there that make it go a little bit more gentler down on your records. Okay, the only thing left to do is to play a record because we can't do a direct feed sound test. So let's go ahead and test her out. Okay, we are on the front firing stereo microphones so you can get the most accurate sound representation in the room. So without further ado, here we go. Holy cow. It's not bad. It's not bad. This is an epic occurrence, you guys. This is actually better than expected. That happens so rarely. Keep in mind, this is $25. This is a couple of Whopper meals. This is 25 bucks. It doesn't track too heavy. The sound is decent. This would be a good turntable for a beginner. I really did. I tried not to come into this with prejudice. It's got issues. I mean, you can't connect it to anything. There's no headphone jack. It's truly a record player. But for a kid or somebody who's just getting into vinyl, just to listen to it, yeah. It's not going to blow them away in terms of like an introduction to the format. But if they just want to listen to like kids records or, thrift store records, or they just want, something at this level, if it's just like an extra turntable, there's not a problem here. It works fine. Even the speakers aren't that bad. It sounds better than some much more pretentious units that I've seen in the past. Okay, let's tear her apart, see what's inside. Okay, let's start by looking under the platter. It's very weird how there's no audio output jacks and there's no headphone jack, even though they got a volume control, and there's no power supply other than a micro USB. That's very strange. So, okay, I'm gonna pop off the circle up here. Don't lose these, they always go flying. This will be a belt-driven turntable. There's a subplatter, the belt goes around there. There's the belt. Okay, there's the motor mount. Just a hollow plastic shell, which is what we expected. I am trying to get into this area here. Interesting. So there's one kind of spring position there. It's hard to say where the other ones are. These are all a little different. It's not the same record player mechanism exactly. There's different versions and there's different companies that make them. All right, I'm trying to get into the case. I think it comes apart on the front edge because this is all one continuous piece, and I loosened both of those screws, but it doesn't want to lift out yet. Maybe I have to look under the rubber feet. So yeah, I totally checked the record for damage. There was none. I was very, very impressed. So let's see. Yeah, screws are hiding under there. These are just little adhesive rubber discs for the feet. That's fine. All right, let me go ahead and take all the screws off and we will open it up for realsies. I just can't get over how impressed I am with this little thing. You guys are going to be calling me nuts, but the thing about it is I'm not comparing it to a super high-end unit, but for an absolute beginner record player, for a kid or a teenager or somebody who's just like has a mild interest, why not? Why not? All right. We should be able to open it up now. I am lifting. This whole thing comes off as one. And there we go. Very interesting. I've never seen it done like this before. What did I tell you? JYK motor? Actually, this would be an XYT motor. This thing says it's an XYT motor. I have never seen the XYT variant, although the label looks identical. But let's take a look here, guys. I see no hot glue. There's no hot glue anywhere. Let's go ahead and rotate it around here. I see real wire blades braids with actual connectors. Yeah, look at this. The components look legit. Impressive. I mean, so far this is impressive. There's just nothing to it. It's a very simplistic device. There's the tone arm position sensor. There's the lift mechanism right down there, the bottom side of the lift. It is sort of a corrugated, compartmentalized plastic molding, but no big surprise. All right, and that's all mounted to the bottom side of the plinth. And under here, all we've got is a plastic shell. Oh, that's the USB power supply board in the back. Very, very simple. And then we've got our speakers. They're 3 watts, 4 ohm speakers. 52 millimeter drivers, guys. That's about the same size driver that you'd find in a good pair of headphones. But if it's properly impedance matched, sure, sounds good. I'm just flabbergasted. I don't know what to say. I'm not speechless. You guys know I'm never speechless, but good grief. Yeah, I'm going to keep this. You know, I walked into this saying, yeah, this is probably going to bomb hard, but it'll be an interesting show. How often do we review anything on this channel that promises or purports to be at a certain level and then excels over that? If it's not a name brand unit, it doesn't happen as often as it should. If it's a no-name brand that's coming on the scene, it says turntable player on the front of it or something like that, typically we're massively disappointed, or it's just meh. You know what I mean? But this one does what it sets out to do, and it does it cleanly. It executes it properly. I'm actually going to recommend this turntable. $25. This is a good record player to get started with. Absolutely. Put a link in the description below for you guys. guys. And that's going to do it. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this show. I would really appreciate that. It definitely helps us out. Consider joining the Vinyl Nation, which is our membership program. We do an extra Friday show and other benefits too. But that's going to do it for now, guys. Happy record hunting. We'll see you next time.